Hey, 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 welcome to another episode of Unfiltered and Intentional. Thank you for tuning in now, tomorrow, later, on a Friday when you got nothing else to do, when you want to be like, what the hell are they talking about?
Right.
Before we get into today's topic, thank you, Liz and Specs. I know we've actually kind of missed a couple of weeks. We had
Sure.
one off day, kind of, but thanks
Mhm.
again for tuning in and everything. And Liz, can you let everybody know what to do?
So, hey everybody, happy Sunday. As always, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks section and keeping that going. Thanks for just being a part of the family and letting us be a part of your evening. We really, really appreciate you. So, now, if you haven't, shame. Right? I
And there's
need you
people out there that don't. They watch the show and don't like and
to
subscribe.
like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on
I know.
YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Twitch. I mean, you can find us. We're not hiding, right? So, and then please share if it's a particularly good subject, if there's a particularly good clip, reach out to us. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We are open to the feedback. We appreciate it. We're here to grow and to let you know. So, hey, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you once again. Also, let's go into current events with Kia.
Yes.
Um, ugh, Lord, it's so much going on. And you know what's so interesting? I didn't want to just start talking about the war, but unfortunately, Putin has decided just to kind of go balls to wall and just bomb children and kids and hospitals and women and just people who know that they cannot defend themselves. Um, which definitely I see when we ever have our voting episode, we definitely know that a Republican is going to be in office. But that's a whole nother topic. Um,
Really, Kia?
I
That's
know
how you're feeling tonight?
Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, is currently in the hospital. I guess he's battling something with an infection of some sort, and they're treating him with that. I don't know how you guys feel about Clarence Thomas, but I don't wish ill on anyone. I think it's like bad karma mojo type thing, but that's just me. I don't care for his policies, but he doesn't even really talk, but I just don't care for him per se. Um, and then I found it real interesting. They had something. The Senate just passed legislation to end daylight savings time, and it's so funny because Marco Rubio was so staunch on it. He's a representative for for Florida, but it's not going to really affect Florida, but it would affect people on the West Coast and other locations. Imagine right now your kid is walking home from school and the sun is rising at 9 o'clock or eight something or whatever, and they had to be at school much earlier. So we'll see how that plays out. Somebody that I know, if they're watching, is so funny. They're like, wait a second. Does that mean time's an illusion? Is all this shit bullshit, really? I mean, especially they could just sit and change stuff whenever they want to, but you know
Well,
how it is. Oh, go ahead.
well, they did that like the 1800s for farmers. So it was. Here's the thing, like that in off is an American thing, and all that was built around farmers. So it's been elite for over 100 years. We just kept it because we're America.
Woo, we do all types of stuff because we're America. But back to today's topic, a woman's role. I'm gonna switch it up, guys. Normally, I'm like the host, like I'm a co-host, this, that, and the third. But this topic here is how I feel about when we talk about voting. I'm just like, ugh. It's a touchy subject to me because based on how we can go there with it, I could get really, really femininity on that shirt. Wow,
Yes.
I
My superpower.
there's a lot of feelings that I have about this topic, about a woman's role, a woman's place, the job of a woman, and that's actually transition now because a lot of people are just claiming to be women, and that's a whole nother topic within itself. But whatever. I'm just gonna be quiet. I'm not the host today. I'm the co-host. I'm gonna play Liz.
Really?
She's gonna take it from here. I'm gonna read the
Okay.
questions, Liz, and you're gonna go ahead and kind of monitor and do the T for timeout and all that.
Okay. All right.
I'm be quiet with
Yikes! I've been thrown into the seat, huh? So,
yeah.
all right. Well, here we go. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Right. So, I'm the one. I bugged Kia. I'm like, listen, it is Women's History Month, and I refuse. It would be like missing Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month. It's Women's History Month. And as much as we have to fight for every single thing, every damn thing, like there's no aspect of life that we haven't had to like put up like dukes up, really, really fight for it. And so Women's History Month is just as big a deal to me as any other celebration that they want to have, say they're having, claim they're having. You know, we get a banner, but do we get anything else that goes with it, right? So we've been celebrating Women's History Month since 1987. It was, passed into law and recognized federally as Women's History Month, March 1st through the 31st. It's actually been a thing since I think 1907. New York figures was the first place that had Women's History Day. Well, it was National Women's Day, and then it was like Socialist Women's Day, and then it kind of evolved over the years. But ultimately, we got a month, so we are happy for that. Now, I'm gonna toss this out there because I know Kia says she has some very strong feelings about it, and I am curious as to what these feelings are. No, we're not zipping up; we're opening up, right? So when I say the words "a woman's role," what are the first thoughts and the first feelings? Notice I said feelings. Yeah. What are the first thoughts and feelings that come to mind? And interestingly enough, we're gonna actually let the gentleman go first.
I was gonna say, let Specs go.
So Specs, a woman's role.
This will be extremely quick because we need the same energy for everything. It's not for me to say.
Okay. I mean,
here's the thing with me, because I always keep the same energy.
Sure.
I always keep the same energy. So right. As a man, when it comes to my subjects, you don't need to get this. When it's a woman, she leads. You tell me what you need. I don't need to tell you because that's how we are. That's what I'm telling you. I'm mansplaining your issues. No, you tell me. We'll go from there. That's all I got to say.
Oh.
I mean, well, I wouldn't call it mansplaining in this case, but even just the fact that you would say, when it's a man's issue, you don't got nothing to say. I got a lot to say about every issue. So, that's kind of,
Okay, you can say it. I probably won't receive because here's the thing. If you told me about my body and what I could do with my penis, I would just laugh at you because I'm like, what are you talking about? So when men tell women with their body parts, I'm like, what are you talking about? That you should ask her thing, not tell her what you know. So for me and being married, you do not mansplain a woman to a woman, right? So what the woman's like, what I need to do? Because and here's a trap for a man. If a woman asks you that and you say anything else, me, that's an issue. So then when she's like, I need you to do this, pick your role and go for it.
All right. Okay. I'll take that.
I will. I'm gonna toss this out there because I'm gonna circle back around to you, Specs. But also though, because it doesn't have to be you telling me what my role is, but in your life, what has been your experience in terms of women's roles in your life and how you see women in that way. But let's go with Kia real quick.
I was gonna say, let me go to the comment and then
really we're gonna comment first. Kia, you really hiding this.
They're coming in, and then I'll talk. Let me go to the comments and then. Hey Z, good morning. Excuse me, good evening, everyone. Okay, we got Toya. Good God Sunday evening, King and Queens. Hello, Cash. Greetings, crew. Miss Shatima. Hello, ladies and gents. Yes. Hello. Popcorn passport, motherhood caretaker, lover, friend, partner, not always in that order.
Yes, a woman's role. There you go.
Good evening to everyone. Skull phase. All right. Good evening. Whew. I wish there were more comments. I got to answer soon. Provider. All right.
Provider. Wow. Okay. So
how I would suggest a woman's role. First thing that comes to mind. The song by Shaka Khan, and then of course Whitney Houston did the remake. I'm Every Woman.
Okay.
That comes to mind. And what I say by that is I think of a woman's role, and there's a difference. I want the audience to know there's a difference between a girl and a woman. A lot of times people don't know that. There's also a difference between a young lady, you know, they're developing and these things to become either or.
Right.
But once you have achieved the title of a woman, I would say the role of a woman is whatever that woman chooses to be. Because not all women have children. Not all women are in a committed relationship. Not all women are in certain types of your typical setups. I know traditionally speaking, you know, as there was one comment talking about the motherhood, caretaker, lover, friend, we are all that, right? Um, it's such a strong topic to me because I feel, especially for African American women, it's like we have to be everything. We have to be tough, right? And when you're so tough and you're carrying everyone's burden, you end up taking away of the things that you need. But that's a whole nother thing. I'm gonna keep quiet. But yeah, that's what came to my mind.
I mean, don't keep quiet, right? So, because here's the thing is, I have found, and lately, I think in the last year, I've paid more and more and more attention to it. For some reason, anytime we are talking about a woman or even speaking about ourselves, we feel the need to interject that we're strong, right? I'm a strong woman. She's a strong woman. She's, you know, why do we have to say that? Men don't have to say I'm a strong man. You don't really refer to a man as a strong man. It's just implied by virtue of the fact that they're a man. So I think the first thing that we kind of need to analyze is, why do we see ourselves as being perceived to be weak, so much so that we have to interject our strength? Does that make sense? So, you know,
I think for myself,
Yeah, but that's a whole nother subject. Like that's the 70s and a woman's push and a black woman and white woman. That's the whole thing. I'm independent, and that's we call that psychological warfare on the black woman to pull her from her dynamic. But that's a whole nother subject.
it kind of still intertwines, I think, because at the end of the day, you know, we grow up, right? And when we grow
no, like
up,
it's still
we look
here.
at our parents.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh no, I'm not saying the propaganda is here. It is. When the black woman says, and this was fed to her by the government in the 60s and 70s, it was a separation of black family, which worked, you know, because generally when you go to court, you think 10 to 20 years and it works the same way. You got to think 10 to 20 years. So when they were giving, they were creating welfare for poor white people, like so they wouldn't had the same thing happen. What was that? In the Great Depression. So they created that. So they were like, here, black people, for women, they were like, yo, you can do this. You can be like the poor white women, but you can't have a man in here.
I would even take it back.
So now she got to choose. She's like, how do I choose? You know, no. You can't start with what's happening now. You got where it started. So I'm just saying that because you were talking about why do women feel like that. So then, what is, and I'll be done. So what are the things you have to say when you say when black women has to say that? You say it because if I'm strong, somebody's weak, right? Because you have to differentiate yourself from somebody who's weak. You're a man. So that's why that propaganda was there, because black men have always been strong. But when you feed them, when you feed somebody, like, you got to say this, I say this because if I'm weak, if I got to overemphasize because I know I'm strong. But when I have to overemphasize it, why am I doing that?
Well,
I got to show hey, the white man. Hey, the white.
It's something that's ingrained. Specs. It's something that I think that's still ingrained in today's society. I know we talk about it briefly in reference to the medical system. You know, a woman's chances with a baby is 110% that she will not make it out that hospital once she delivers. You know, you say that you have these ailments, you say that you have your pain, and they're just kind of looking at us like you could take the pain, which we can. And we've learned to, right? A lot of us growing up may not even had, you know, insurance and healthcare. How many parents have said, you ain't going to the hospital today, you better suck it up and drink some ginger ale and move it on. And we just pick up this persona that we are a certain way. Give me like 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds, guys. My internet. One
while she runs away real quick.
I just want to comment of right.
I just had to hit a switch. Go ahead. I'm so sorry about that. Go ahead.
You go ahead, Liz.
No,
I was just saying, of propaganda. Like, it's something that was. I couldn't hear you. What you say?
You're
Give me
freezing
some
up.
real bad specs.
You're
And so,
freezing up. I can go to the
hey, you want to
comments.
read the comments?
Yeah, I'll go
Yep.
to the comments as
Oh,
well.
here we go. The man is working against me.
All right, Kia, go ahead.
So the difference between the role and ability also. A role is what you are supposed to do. Ability is what you can do. Unfortunately, met and dated women, new women who were not doing what is seen as their role, even because it continues on, even who were not doing what is seen as their role, even when it was within their ability. So, I mean, at the end of the
Hmm.
day, I think that our society, and of course, we talk about all women. Um, I'm talking right now about our culture. We're intertwined with this twerking culture.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, that's put a bad tamper, I think, on us. Like we already had a lot of stigmas on what we're supposed to be doing, but
Hmm.
now that ghetto culture or the twerking culture or whatever you want to call it is kind of like we're competing against it. I think that we're all kind of put in this like melting pot and we're looked upon and we have these stigmas on us and we're just constantly fighting trying to break those stigmas, trying to say that we are different. I mean, it's interesting. Spring break just happened for a lot of people. Miami had to put curfews on their areas. Shootings took place. They had a car show. 20 people got shot while one person died. And they're like, all these black
Hmm.
women, this woman. And I think the words are used loosely, but even though the words are used loosely, we're still grouped in, right? And it's very hard to kind of
Hmm.
separate yourself from what society looks at you. I
Well,
looked at the statistic, I'm sorry, and they said that
no,
a
you're
black
fine.
woman is one of the least desirable women, in America. And it's just like, wow. This is an actual statistic. This is what's going on. This is what's happening here. And I wonder why, why are we looked upon as something that's not desirable? Why are we looked upon as lazy? Why are we looked upon as certain? And this is upon our own peers. It's really hard. It's really, really hard to identify what our role, what we're supposed to be like. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm actually going to.
Propaganda.
I think it goes a little bit beyond it. No, actually, propaganda is the right word, but we're not even aware of where it's coming from anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there, I think personally, going back to what you were just saying, Kia, and tying in the propaganda aspect of it, right? I think it's very deliberate that it's your twerkers that are the ones that are being propped up as popular black women, right? And so it's way more likely that what Cardi and Megan and all of them have been up to this week than it is for you to know what Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris have been doing this week, right? I mean, so and again, that is
Right.
propaganda because it's this sexualization of especially women of color. You know what I mean? And if you even think about it, the first Hispanic
Right.
women, because again, it's Women's History Month, right? And when you think about, I was thinking the other day, and I'm going, well, what were the first women that you can make that were household names, right? And it's always somebody that was half naked, always somebody that is because of their body, right? I mean, J Lo put Puerto Rican women, Hispanic women on the map. Why? Because of her ass. Like let's say what it is, right? It's not, there was so many other women that came before her that were way more important in history. You have the first female Surgeon General was Puerto Rican. Nobody knows her name, you know what I mean, or anything. But here comes this girl with a booty that's insured and everything else, and that's the only name that you know. So there's this perpetual sexualization, and that's pretty much all we're good for. Hispanic women, Black women, women of color. That's the only purpose that they serve, right? Other cultures very much when you do see their women, they're still very, very much in that submissive housewife, homemaker, mothering type of role. But when it comes to American women of color, it's a bit of an issue. You know what I mean? It's this hypersexualization, like as if that's all we're good for.
I have a quick question. So I know everybody talks about Kevin Samuels. Like,
And
why
have a
are these
statement when you're
women
finished.
calling up to talk? Oh yeah, why do women call up to talk to Kevin Samuels? Why? I have a quick question. How do you feel? How many people feel the same way that he does, though, when it comes to like, because he comes in hard. Sit your fat ass down. What you doing with them 3 kids and this, wanting a new man and blah blah blah. Do you think majority of society feels that way in a general sense? Of course, there's always the ones who are not putting us in that category, but it seems like we're just clumped into that. Like we are the hard working Black women. We got a lot of sass. We got a lot of, this and this, the Spanish woman has this, do you think the average person thinks like Kevin Samuels or?
Yeah. I know it's not popular. It's not what we want to
Well,
hear. It's not, it's not a good thing.
I'll just try to get back to the other subject, and I'll come back to.
All right, thanks. Go ahead.
You froze.
Oh no,
you froze up.
Go ahead.
No. Let's chime in before we get too far away from it. So go ahead.
Okay, so the first subject was about propaganda and how. All right, so we got back to that and how I forgot that was such a long time ago. All right, so let's come back to this one. I'm sorry, because I had a point. We got so past it. Kevin Samuels. Okay, I would say 10 years ago, there was a host named LaJohn Black, a show on the radio station that I worked at. So we were talking, and I was talking about the overconfidence of women. Not every woman, but some women like this. I'm a 10, like this. Stop. It's okay to be realistic about yourself. Where everybody's like, I'm a 10. What is a 10? So he's picking the obvious stuff that like, come on, like stop. But he's doing it to men too, because men that are that overconfident, when you catch them on it, they will laugh it off and be like, you right. But generally, women will stick by that because a man that has like a 4-inch penis and says he got the biggest junk in the room, when you call him on it, he's gonna laugh like, you know what, you right. He ain't wrong. But a woman that's a 4 that says she's a 10 and have nothing to back it up with. For one thing, she's claiming to be a 4. Not that it's disrespectful. She's like, I'm a 10. So you already rating yourself. Okay, so now we're there. And that's how he catches them. He'll be like, blah, 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 blah. He'll mention a number. Then this is how you disqualify yourself. You say, I'm a 10. You shouldn't even go there. Respectful, I'm this, I'm beautiful. Nope. You say I'm a 10. Now he's drawing you in, right? So now he can say, oh, okay, blah, 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 and then cut you down. So you got to know who you're talking to. And if someone's going to rate you, you don't answer with a number. You're like this. Who you disrespecting? No, we're not doing this. But when you answer with a number, then you're already there.
Let me go to the comments real quick.
So yes, he's doing that.
So we got Rosa Michelle Sojourner Truth. I think that was for reference to what were the women that come to mind.
Yeah. So you said those are the first women.
First things that come to my mind. Yes. Yes, the Real Deal Show. Hey, it's called Elegant and Poised. Yeah.
Yes.
What did slave owners use Black women for? Seems as if it continued through the years.
Right.
It's very, very true. I'm glad you made that point. And I also wanted to touch on before I had to go fix my
right. That was the other subject.
Oh, I was just going to say that it's interesting because I think that whole terminology of a strong Black woman, it comes from us seeing also our Black men get brutalized and beat, our kids taken away from us during those times. A lot of male buck breaking and these different things were happening right in front of our eyes. And, we just had to be that strong survivor and get it together. I mean, it seems in some situations, especially back in those days.
But that didn't come from that. But that didn't come from that.
Well, I wouldn't mean the terminology.
It came from the 60s.
You're talking about the terminology? Because
women,
we did have
right, just being strong. The terminology is propaganda. The terminology, we talk about the terminology.
Okay.
If you're descendants of slaves, these are the people that survived coming over here, survived being brutal, seeing because women got raped, they raped kids, it was just horrible. And then you all had to survive that. You all given garbage and had to make good food garbage that the slave master was like, what is that you're cooking? So we're descendants of that. So everybody had a strong mentality because what is that? PTSD? Think of all of that and you still had to deal. So
and it's still in our DNA
that,
as well.
the black family was strong. That was not a thing.
Right.
Let's go on with the comments.
Right. That was when you say strong. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So hey, he says hello everyone. Hey, thanks.
Diamond.
He says, Allison says it's sad watching and listening to Black women call into his show to get verbally abused. I do not believe that the majority of men feel that way about Black women. In certain aspects, perhaps. You know, there's another show I wish I could pull up that it's another podcast that the young guys are listening to, but they did a survey and it was a lot of people keeping slack about it because they were like, Black women are the least desirable. You know, we do have attitudes. We're not submissive compared to our white counterpart. You know, we do always have that little, you're not telling me, and these things, and just trying to, run the show, and we don't know our place. But this is, I mean, if I had the time to pull it up, I definitely would. But this was a statistic that came up.
Mm-hmm.
But see, and that was a lie. The Black women are desirable. But go ahead, read that. Now. I'll go through that whole thing.
Okay, I agree with Kevin. I just don't agree with how he speaks down to women. Yeah, I think he does.
I mean, I even have an issue with that though. Like, how would you agree with someone? First of all, you have to tune in to know you agree with them. You have to give them attention in order to know that you agree with them, right? If he is verbally abusive, and he is, why do we even give him that much? I mean, honestly, when you give somebody your time, you're giving them a level of respect, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, right? So you'll usually know, I'm going to go personal here, right? You'll usually know that you've aggravated me and I'm not dealing with you anymore because you will get no more of my time. Right at that point, that's how you know that we have parted ways. I will not argue with somebody that I don't have any respect for. I will not. I simply will not make time for them. So I won't hear you anymore once I've decided that I'm not going to allow you to continue this behavior. So the fact that we know who he is, what he's talking about, what his last show was about, and everything else, we're giving him a level of respect that he has not given to us.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? So I mean, there's a cycle of abuse that we keep jumping back into.
Specs. I got a couple of comments, not just this one, that you were jumping in and out. So you're cutting in and out. So you might want to just come back in so they can hear you better.
Start your internet.
So I know he's going to take care of that real quick. And then we have Alistair. How old are we? Why are we asking people who don't know us to rate us? I do know it has to do with self-esteem. You know, at the end of the day, we are looking for, we are looking for love. We are looking for sort of validation and these different things. Let me ask a question. And I know I said, Liz, this is all you, and you may have this. You may have this on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna ask the question, and then you can say if it's on your roster not to talk about. But everybody is claiming to be a woman these days. You know, how are you? You know, how are you feeling about this?
Really, that's where you want to go?
I went there.
All right, this is it's probably not going to be popular. I'm well aware of this, and actually, Specs, there's a lot of feedback. If you can hit mute while you're not speaking, it would help a little bit, please. Right, but so I know that he is referring to, because we've had the conversation behind scenes, right? Like your transgender women and everything else. It is on my list of things to talk about. Let me circle back around to it, right? So different causes of feminism over the years, right? And so we've had to fight on a political, economic, personal, social, educational, professional, and interpersonal level. Different things that we have had to fight for. We have had to fight for the right to vote, the right to hold office, the right to work. We're still fighting for equal pay. We've had to fight for the right to own property. We have had to fight not to be property. We had to fight to receive an education, to have rights in our marriages, to make decisions over our bodies, right? And when we talk about that, the first thing that usually comes to mind is abortion. The other things we've had to fight for when it comes to our body: contraception. When we say no, do we mean it? Right? Our medical care. We've had to fight just to be understood and heard. We've had to fight to make domestic violence an issue, because if you are property, what somebody does with their property is no one else's business. We've had to fight sexual harassment. We've had to fight how to dress, how to act, and we still will never have sexual parity with our counterparts, right? So, going back to your question, what I am not going to do while I'm already fighting all these battles as a woman, as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife, while I am already fighting these, what I am not going to add to my list is fighting for a man that has chosen to take on these battles. I'm sorry. I know that is unpopular. I'm also not going to fight on behalf of women that don't want to be women anymore. I have too much going on. I respect their struggle. I sympathize with their struggle, but in this instance, that is their struggle. It just is what it is. I feel about as bad for them as I do about the blonde that's the wrong shade of blonde. It's just not my problem. Period. So sorry.
No. It's interesting you said that, because I think what the definitions have changed through the years, and change is good, right? But with that being said, it kind of dilutes some of the things that you were talking about, right? Because to this day, the laws are being passed in reference to what you can do with your body and what you cannot do with your body. And I'm not talking about abortion, like you said. Domestic violence is still a big issue in the household. The equal pay, like how the fuck?
We're still doing this.
how the hell? And we're all working the same job, same level of experience, and I get paid less than the next person. And that's why they put the thing and don't talk about your wages. Well, why? Because at the end of the day, somebody is getting paid more than what they should be. You should be paid for what you're worth. But if me and him are working the same and have the same experience, or I have more experience, what's really going
on? Worth less just because.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let me ask you this question. Do you feel, with that being said, that Black women have it the worst? Because at the end of the day, when the feminist movement took place, it seemed as if it was a collective push, like, yeah, women's rights. And then at the end of the day, it seemed as if our rights kind of got separated from white women's rights. Like, okay, we're women, but at the same time, we still got some other stuff, and we kind of getting pushed back. And I refer that back to when Ida B. Wells was asked to walk in the women's march and everything. They wanted her to walk in the back, and she said, no. You want the support and the numbers of us women? We walk hand in hand. So do you feel that the feminist movement has hurt us, or has it, improved our struggles in any way?
I mean, no, I don't think it hurt us at all. I feel that it was reflective of everything else that was taking place in society. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, when slavery was a thing, Black women were treated worse than any other woman that was in slavery. You know what I mean? Because slavery was the issue of the day. When we were going through voting rights, it was, at the bottom of a totem pole, because that was the issue of the day. So I think it's always just reflective. It's a mirror of what's taking place. It sucks. It's a inconvenient and unfortunate truth, but I don't think it ever set us back. I think that an advance for women is an advance for women, and that the person at the back of the line is still just the person at the back of the line. But if the line is moving up, then everybody's moving up with the line. Does that?
Well, I say that because take Taraji P. Henson. She's an actress, and when she did Benjamin Button, she got paid $10,000, while her white counterpart women got paid millions. I think Cash was mentioning to me, the one woman, she's an actress and she plays in Hunger Games. She's a real big one. Yes.
Yep,
she was talking about how we're not getting paid the same amount as our white male counterparts. But at the end of the day, she was already making millions of dollars, compared to, once again, our Black actresses. The women were not making nowhere near. They weren't even making millions. They were just making hundreds of thousands. A lot of times you'll see the situations of us still not getting the same benefits of our white counterpart women. So yes, they'll pass something, they'll pass a law, they'll pass a bill, but we're still not getting that same equal right
I
that
mean,
our white
when
women.
you think about it, like just to the question that you had just kind of touched on
Well,
for a moment, right?
that's a hard one to compare, though.
Respects, it sounds really bad.
You compare. What's the name? Okay. All right. Well. All right. So I'll just pull.
Okay, but you can chime in through the chat.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry, but no, but here you were mentioning what's Caitlyn Jenner
Yeah.
was a woman for a whole year and was
And she got
woman
that award,
of
yeah.
the year. And so, you know, and so there's a lot of women that have been women for the past 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years that never got the distinction of being woman of the year. But somebody that was a white man a year ago is woman
Yeah.
of the year now, and every, like, we wanted to throw a parade for her. And I mean, again, I respect the struggle that that person's experiencing, but it only that in that case answer, I guess, tying back to your question, yeah, it actually only set us that much further back, right? And so when I mean, currently where I work, and I never talk about where I work or
Yeah,
anything,
of
right?
course.
But in our dress code, we can't wear sleeveless clothes. Like, this is 2022 and my arms are too sexy for the workplace, right? I mean, that's it.
Now,
It's
do you think
abstract.
that's put in place because women are always crying sexual harassment? And I'm not saying I said it, but just in a general sense, you hear men
Um,
say, "My God, I complimented you, and now you're taking me to court."
I don't know why it's put in place. I don't
Okay.
actually care why it's put in place. At the end of the day, I feel that, I mean, how old am I for you to still be telling me how to dress? Now, the thing is, I understand why it has to be put into place, because it's like you said, with everybody running around shaking their ass for attention, right? It sets people like me back. So, you know, it's like, okay, if you let me show my arms, I won't show my ass. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So we're constantly fighting this struggle, even between ourselves, just as women, right? Because here I am fighting to be taken seriously and not to be sexualized and not to be, you know, seen in a certain way. And all the women that are in positions to do, not all, but a lot of the women that are in positions to do so, I mean, not for nothing, I have the world of respect for Beyonce, generally speaking, but when's the last time this woman wore pants? Like, anywhere, you know what I mean? And like, at some point we have to acknowledge men can't walk around topless everywhere. A dude walks into a boardroom meeting with no shirt on, everybody's gonna look at that kind of crazy, right? I think that, you know, we can't be ridiculous in our expectations when we're like, well, we're women and we're free, so we can walk around with no pants on ever, no matter how formal the event. And if anybody looks at me sideways, it's because they're diminishing women. No, because we would actually look at men sideways too if they showed up without their jacket and their shirt on in certain situations. So, I mean, while we're looking for parity, we should want that in everything, not just when it's convenient to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we had another comment come in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Cass says, I think anytime you generalize a group of people, you are likely to be wrong. But I like the idea of people being more selective about their mates or improving themselves to attract a better mate.
I think we were talking about the whole rating system. I just don't believe in rating people. I think that that's just so demeaning, unless you're in a competitive, like a sports setting. You know what I mean? Where your triple axel was a 4 out of 5. Like, that makes sense to me. But rating women like cattle, or humans in general, I mean, I don't know, Kia. When's the last time you ever looked at a man and said, "Hey, I saw this dude today. He was a 5." You know, the
Last
other
time I
human.
rated a guy, I must have been in fifth grade.
Oh, 5th grade. Yes, that sounds that, which goes
Yeah,
back to what I was saying. Like, how old are we? Honestly, that's not how we talk to each other. I don't understand why it's how any man would talk about a female, or why we would call a man up to say, you know, well, I think I'm a, you know, fill in the blank number. I think that that's silly. Now, you were talking about the differences between the struggle of a white woman and any other woman for that matter. I did have a question for you. So, how do you feel that a woman's role differs from culture to culture? And do you think there's anything that our community can take from other cultures?
Shit. Well, I can say that it's interesting because I had this conversation earlier. African Americans don't have culture, and then they were like, "Yes, we do." So we do. We have created a subculture within America's society, right? and it's to be idolized, right? You know, all the sports, all the pop people, everybody wants to, you know, dress and act and, you know, eat the food and different things. So it is something to embrace. You know, there are definitely great things about the African American culture, but I do think that when it comes to the root of it all, we don't have that. How would you know what your traditions are if you don't know where you come from? You know, Asians know where they come from. You know, Hispanics know where they come from. You know, there's certain traditions that are embedded in the Caribbean culture that this is what it is. There's certain work ethic. There's some, if you ever looked at a let's just say a Caribbean and or Hispanic, somebody from the island, and the
Mhm.
way they hold their household and the hierarchies and the structure, everyone has a place. And not to be
Mhm.
demeaning, like you're in your place, woman, but no, you know, the you know, you have the woman as the caretaker, kind of, you know, and the man goes out there, whatever, whatever. And not saying that now, of course, society, inflation, and everybody's working, but everybody still has those roles. And I think that what we could learn from it is just to kind of get back to that, trying to making a home, because we end up raising these kids and they're wild as fuck. Like
Hmm.
these kids are off the chain, and I
Well,
don't look
whose
at
job is it to make the home a home?
I think it's the woman's job to make a home.
Okay,
And the
so
reason
that's a
why
woman's role.
well,
Okay.
well, and I only say that based upon if it's a single household, if that's a good point. If I could get that out there, because if you have a two-party household with a man and a woman, it's both people, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a son, I don't think a woman can truly teach a man how to be a man, right? She can give him all the guidance, she can give him all the tools and this, that, and the third, but she's not a man to really say, hey, son, this is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Just like my husband cannot teach his daughter, like, hey, this is what it is to be a woman, and this is what it's going to feel like when you get your period. Oh, I know, I can relate to you. No, you can't relate. You don't know what it is to have PMS. You don't know what it is to have these different things. So I think based on the household, and then the reason why I did mention the woman is just because majority of times, especially in an African American home, you will have the grandmother or you will have the mother being that one care provider, and the father or whatever that happens to be outside the home. But
So that segues right into the next thing I was going to say, right? I have noticed a seismic shift taking place just within our lifetime, right?
mhm,
So just a generation ago, it was kind of a single income household, and the income being generated was from the man, generally speaking, right? And we're talking about in the last generation or two. So it's very likely that if you're watching the show, that your grandmother maybe did not work, possibly your mother did not work, right? Your father was the one that was winning the bacon, and mom was the one that was cooking the meals, washing and the dishes and the clothes, and
domesticated work, yeah,
yeah, all of that, right? Then we kind of shifted to a two income household. Interestingly enough, even though now you have the man and the woman both going out and working the same 40 hours and making the same amount of money, and so on and so forth, who still is in most homes responsible for coming home and seeing to those dishes, those meals, that laundry? And I mean, if that's not your personal experience, then that's fine, right? We're not making it personal. But overall, when we think of who's doing the cooking, cleaning,
well,
washing, taking care of the
well, you
kids.
know what? I will say that the staunch difference between men and women, would be that women are more nurturers. Now, of course, this is a generalized statement. There always will be that household where you won't have that, right? And the man seems to be more of the nurturer, and the woman's kind of like, kind of a little cold. I mean, it's interesting because in my household, personally, if I said, hey, go grab the Robitussin because the baby is not feeling. He'd be like, where's that? Not saying that he couldn't administer the medicine, but just kind of knowing the structure and the flow of everything. Like when I say it's my kitchen, it's my kitchen. Get the hell out of my kitchen. I know exactly what's going on. And then even if he says, hey babe, I'm gonna cook a meal tonight, I may like happen to walk past him and look at him like, oh my God, you were just doing it all wrong. Hand me the seat. What are you doing? Because this is
Just
my
move, let me take it over,
you know,
right?
and a woman, I do think a woman knows how to make a home. Now, of course, like I said, there's always the situations where, a man is like, no, I love my home and I know how to do that. I'm not talking about those one offs.
Right, right. That's what I'm saying. Generally speaking, I mean, because we all know somebody, or in a lot of households now, because we are shifting. I've seen instances where well, I do the sweeping, he does the mopping. I do the cooking, he does the washing. You know what I mean, or things like that. So I mean, we are moving in that direction, but still, kind of generally speaking, the one that is still taking on the maternal, the homemaker, the everything is the woman that is also now expected to be the career woman. So once upon a time, he was career man and you were homemaker. You know what I mean? Now you're career man, career woman, and the added bonus of also being the homemaker. And then now I'll add, especially with COVID and the new norm and everything else, things have also shifted to where a lot of, especially people in your better paying jobs, which traditionally are the men, right, have moved towards work from home. And the lower paying jobs, which are traditionally for women, are still working outside of the homes. And somehow, and I mean, and again, if anybody in the audience has a different experience, I'm open to hear it, right? But what's going to happen next when you have the men are working from home, right? So they're the ones that are actually in the house with the children, with everything else. The woman is outside of the home, you know what I mean? And still comes home to do the cooking, the cleaning, the washing. I mean, there's like, does anybody else see a shift? Do you see a shift, not just in your home, but in your circles, or where are we going with that? Because a woman's role is ever changing, apparently.
I still feel that we will always be the nurturers because imagine we do have the kids, right? That's my baby. You don't know. I mean, even though that's his baby
Maybe.
too. No, no, no. Even though that's his baby too, that's my baby. I know exactly. Here's a kicker. I was even reading a study. They said that women have better hearing than men, and they were programmed that way, or however our bodies genetically work, because we could hear the high pitch of the children crying. So you could be upstairs right now, minding your business, and you heard the baby crying. He was like, What you talking about? No, we
Right.
heard
Yeah.
like, and
So
we go
yes.
through that. Our baby's crying. We instantly, instinctively just hear, can feel. I mean, I know genetically speaking, especially when you have a newborn baby or whatever, that baby crying, all of a sudden your breasts are
Just
throbbing. Like,
lactating.
oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
the man
Yes.
is
It's a
like, what's
physiological
going
response.
on? Yeah, the man is like, you want me to warm a bottle? Meanwhile, our bodies are biologically in sync with the child. So even
Okay.
if, yeah, it is. So even if we're like, hey, I'm the nurturer. No, technically speaking, I am. But
So
we
with
let me
that said, should we go back to a more traditional role? How would you feel about it going, somebody saying, you know what, we just don't have enough jobs, right? Because a couple months ago, that was the whole jobs reports coming out. We don't have enough jobs. You know what would make the jobs report so much better? If we just eliminated half the workforce, all those jobs would become available, right? How would you do that? Send the women back home to take care of their kids. How do you feel about that, Kia?
so for me, personally, then we'll go to the comments. I
Mhm.
actually hate being a stay-at-home mom. I have been a stay-at-home mom for a short time, and it was the
Mhm.
birds. I'm like, oh my God, how do women enjoy this? This shit is so whack. Get these kids away from like literally, I was unfiltered all through the house, cussing like a sailor.
I'm
Couldn't do it.
all through the house.
Couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. It was a shame. And anybody who does do it, I give you all the props in hell because I'm just like, wow, it's hard work. I can say that it does need a balance. I mean, I do like, okay, I'll kick it with the kids, but no, I really don't want to kick it with the kids. I want to be outside working. If
Mhm.
they said right now, hey, if one person had to work, I definitely would say, hey, Cash, go for it. I think a man,
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
I think you have to know your man and you have to know your household. My man likes to work. He likes to be productive. You know what I'm saying? Like when he's not productive, he's frustrated. When we go on vacation, it's the vacation and his work computer. So when he has a little resting time, he's typing away. But this is what he likes to do. Every household is a little bit different, but there is a shift. I think that we have to embrace the shift. I think that we also need to recognize and celebrate our power, our hidden power that we have because we are able to kind of handle it all, right? We can put the baby on the hip, go downstairs in your kitchen because I'm claiming it. It's our kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Make a meal, make it happen, and then make sure that the kids are put to bed. Make sure that his clothes are ironed if they need to be or whatever. I mean, we hold shit down. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put it out there, but we. Let me go to the comments.
All right, yeah, we got some comments piling up. So
So Spec says women rate men on what they think, how much money they make, not on their appearance. I've seen a little bit of both, I
I mean,
suppose.
but again, though, at least me, and I know you and I have had conversations, and everything else. It's not like, oh, he got a good job, he a 10.
Yeah.
It's just not a conversation that we have. So no.
He says, my father was a discipline and my mother was a nurturer. It's interesting because I think, so here's the thing when it comes to the nurturing and the discipline. So I think I discipline in my house, but he has the last say, if that makes sense. So I could be like, don't do this, do. And the child will listen. But as soon as he raises his voice one time, it's like some magical wand disappeared, and like nobody heard the fuck I had to say all the time. Like,
right.
like I've been yelling all this time, but I think it's because you're yelling and then this deep voice comes out like stop, and then all of a sudden everybody commands that attention from the father, from the person, of the house, So he says there's a shift happening. A lot of women now I've noticed are not, nurses?
I think he meant nurturers.
Oh, nurturers.
That's what I'm going with on that one.
That is interesting. It's interesting you say that because it seems a lot of these young women, they're not claiming nobody's kitchen. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to
any of that, right?
They don't know how to do a lot of things. Their man is sick. They like, go to the doctor. Don't lay on my lap. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I think our generation of the people that's listening, a lot of if you are our age, our parents were born in the 50s, 60s time frame, maybe even the 40s. So we still have our own old school traits. We still
do, but are we passing those traits along to our kids? I'm going to answer that. The answer is actually no, mostly because that's where the shift has taken place. Because that's exactly what I just said, right? So grandma was home teaching you and yelling at you about making your bed and cleaning and cooking and everything else, watching and making sure it was done. You were doing it right next to her if you were raised in a home where that was what was being taught, right? I know for me, I go out and I work every day. I come home and the last thing I want is you standing next to me while I'm trying to wash a dish. Like go somewhere. You know what I mean? And so we don't have the time to neither oversee it nor teach it to our girls or anything. I'm put myself in there. I'm guilty as charged, right? But when a woman was at home taking care of that, they were also instilling that in their kids. They were also using those kids. Let me tell you, I know for a fact that I grew up doing some dishes. Why? Because my mother was not going to cook, clean, sweep, mop. She had kids, and every one of us had a job. You're going to sweep, you're going to mop, you're going to do the dishes, and so on and so forth. But that's because she was available during those hours to oversee that and make sure it was done. If your teacher is never there, you ain't doing the work.
I just know, I'm so sorry to cut you off, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I remember my mother coming over my house, and my mother was like, and your daughter, how come she don't know how to do this? How come? I'm like, I don't have the time. Not that I never showed her, but I'm glad you mentioned. I don't oversee. Like, I'll just tell you to do something. Like, of course, I showed you how to do it properly, but I'm not going back. I'm like, why you got this dirty ass room? Like, what type of woman are you growing up? And does not. It makes sense. So I'm not doing my job, huh? That's what you're saying.
I mean, literally that is kind of. I'm gonna put me in there. That's what we are not doing, right? Because all of a sudden
we are raising the young kids.
We are raising them, right? We're not home when they get home from school. I think we had that conversation on this show a few months back. Early release day here in Florida, we have early release day every Wednesday. Why? I don't know. But what job do you know where you're working full time, where you're out of work at 2:00 in the afternoon when your kid comes home? That kid ate or didn't eat, you don't know. If you're working a 9 to 6, if you happen to be lucky enough to have banker's hours, you work 9 to 6. If you commute, you're getting home at 7. Them kids better be eating something. Right? But I'm not the one that's actually putting dinner on the table. And I think that for most working women, we have to collectively own that and say, well, we're not the ones that are putting dinner on the table, which means we probably did not show those girls or those children how to cook because we did not cook. We were at work.
You know what?
You know what I mean?
My house is a little, so I have been able to work from home a lot. And I have been able to show my kids how to cook. I think for me, I just didn't have, per se, the time. And what I mean by time is not that, like you said, if I'm washing a dish, why are you standing next to me? Like, I just want you away from me. Like, you want to, you're already stressed out from the job. You come home, now you got to take care of whatever. Okay, get away. I don't have time. I'll just do it myself. So they're trying to do it or whatever. Wow.
Yes.
I
A
feel like I
lot
need to
of that,
cry.
I'll just do it myself. Yes, even in my house. And so we have a comment.
Oh yeah, wow. I feel like I need to cry in a pillow somewhere.
So
So
cry.
it's I don't necessarily oversee, but my daughter does have responsibilities that she must do each week, and I will check to make sure that they're done right, or she will have to do it again. After redoing a responsibility once or twice, she started doing it. Yeah, and so I would say to that comment that happened per se to me, but it kind of fell off, right? It kind of, especially the older they get, because you already know that they know it. But now when I just deal with the older girls in general, the girls that I talk to now, like 18 and older, right? And none of them really know how to cook. None of them really know how to get there and season the food, and they don't know how to do any of this. But I do hear a lot of times, well, wait a second, I'm not nobody's mama neither. And these girls are definitely independent, meaning like they're making moves quicker. I know they have technology to help them. We didn't have technology growing up, like the cell phones and in easy ways to make cash, like, the Uber Eats and this and this. So they're just doing things a little bit, I guess, a more modern way. So that is a transitional shift there, I would think. But I do think they still need to bring back home economics to school, just to kind of get those foundations and different, and not even in shop class too. I
So,
was in shop class.
like I was going to say, so now we need to instill it in school because we're not really issuing those classes at home.
I mean, I was
feel
in
like
shop
that's
class.
what's coming out of that. So, I mean, but even shop, right? Because the same thing goes. um Back when you did have a single income household, right? And the man did his work, and then he came home and he didn't have the responsibilities of keeping a house together. Because now I think that we are moving into a shift where there is a shared responsibility, and I'm talking about married households, right? So again, we are doing that split where, all right, I'll cook, you'll wash. You'll wash the clothes, I'll fold them, or split that way. But I think that yesterday's man, if I could say it that way, right? I think that yesterday's man had free time to go work on the car, and while he was working on the car, the son was out there working on the car with them and learning something about it. The same way that the girls were next to us in the kitchen learning how to season the meat and everything else. I think that we moved away from that, and that's why we now need shop class and home ec, because the same way that we're not teaching our daughters, I'm going to put that on the men too. They're not teaching their sons either. When's the last time that you can honestly say you saw a man out in the yard, showing a guy how to put the carburetor back in the car? It's just not something. It's something that we've really gotten away from because we're chasing, the dollar. I actually had a statistic someplace that it was saying that, in effect, it is more financially feasible to have two people working in the household, but worse for the children. Right. And so we've all kind of agreed on that. And where is that taking us as a society? So as we get away from a woman's role, going back to kind of the name of the show, how is that going to affect society down the line? I think that's where my question is. The last question I want to toss out to you: where do you feel that we're going as a society as we continue to shift the woman's role?
I think that now that we are shifting, because it's happening as we speak, what a woman's role is, or what we perceived, or how we were raised, is going to be impactful. Because as we speak now, there isn't per se a true definition. I love my transgender um, folks. I have friends out there and everything. But at the end of the day, like you said about Caitlyn Jenner, 1 year as a woman, and she is getting this accolade, and everyone's praising her for her woman struggles compared to people who born, into this. I do know that it's going to be more of a debate, more of uh our olden ways having that conflict. I know we had one episode one time was, are we canceling culture?
Mm.
And that was basically like, hey, this is what we're used to, and now boom, here comes a change. I mean, as soon as we talked about daylight savings time, we changing that again, all this shit is irrelevant now. The roles, the gender, the this, the that. I mean, I could call myself whatever, or what I feel. Now it's all about
Do you
feelings.
feel
I
that that's
feel.
better for society, that we're just doing away with those roles? Like, what do you feel is the long-term ramification of that, if any? You think it's a positive, a
Think
negative? What do
that,
you think
well,
it's going?
because I have a military background, I think there needs to be structure. I personally work very well with structure,
Okay.
and with structure, um, there's steps, and you can follow a path, and you have a goal. If you kind of throw everything into a pot and just like, okay, like a smorgasbord type of thing, then it can get confusing. It can get all type of debacled and disheveled, and misunderstandings happen. And but at the end of the day, I do feel that you have to do what works best for you and your household. So with the shift, this paradigm shift that's happening in the world,
Hmm.
if you are successful, if you are still able to love your kids, if you're able to not be able to be consumed with stress and, a lot of health issues and just different things, and you want to say, hey, this is my role, regardless if you're a man and a woman, then if you like it, I love it, right? Um, at the end of the day, when we get political with it, all them MFs can kiss my ass. But just in reference to an individual home household, structure is always good. And then whatever that structure piece looks like for you,
Hmm.
definitely. If we're gonna talk about more culture for our community within itself, we so damn backwards. I don't even know what the
God, here we go. So, but you know what? See, now I was trying to wrap up. Can you and open up something else, right? I
no,
don't know
no,
about
no, no.
backwards because I feel like American women at large, right? And I mean all American women, black, white, and American women, generally speaking, are highly offended anytime you talk about a woman's place, a woman's role. God forbid you should mention the word submitting. I know they omitted the vows, to honor and obey your husband a long, long time ago, and things like that. I feel like that's an American woman problem. I think if you go any place else in the whole world, that is not a conversation that they're having. A woman does what a woman does, a man does what a man does, and we look at that as backwards. Is
Well,
it?
when we get that way, we're talking about a little bit more religious. A lot of other cultures are more religious. Religion and family is a number one key in most of other societies. And with that being said, like I said, they know the place, right? And if the husband or the person, the head of the household says this, then we just follow suit. Um, at the end of the day, I do feel that we are consumed with, oh, you can't tell me what to do. But I do understand why women do say that, because we have been in a lot of different types of abusive relationships, and we've seen abuse too. A lot of times there are women, or I'll say young ladies, or I'll say girls. I don't know if the terminology is right, but we don't know how to talk to people. We don't. We don't know how to talk. You do. I'm into so many women who do not know how to talk to their man. I know the show is getting a little bit late, but I just want to say this: there's a lot of women out there who do not know how to talk to their man. If you want to be treated like a dude, well, see, I'm going off there. See, I shouldn't be
You,
saying
you
these
are,
things.
you
If you
are,
want to
you
be
are.
treated like a lady, then act like a lady. Point blank.
Period.
That period. At the end of the discussion, a lot of women do not know how to talk to their man. It's
Right.
interesting because I used to do this in the beginning of my relationship. And I remember my husband, when I was dating him, and he was just like, I'm not talking to you like that. So why are you talking louder than me? You were like an octave too louder than me. And I was just thinking like,
Hmm.
am I a little octave too loud? Wait a second. But with that being said, we don't need to do all this. You know what I'm saying? You can have your conversation, you can get your point across but talking like you got some sense. Having respect for your significant other, having respect for yourself. I mean, that's a whole other topic. Here I go again. Let me go to some comment real quick.
Uh-huh.
Wait. I think. Whew. Um, so we have the real deal saying it's always been like that in the acting world, being black women and white women. I think he was talking about from the past conversation that we had in regards to the pay gap salary. And then Specs, of course, says change has come. Change
Mhm.
has come, change is here. It's happening as we speak. Laws are being placed on a woman's body on what it's so funny. We're free, right? We're a free society, but I get to make laws about what you can do and what you can do get penalized for. It's very hypocritical to me. I told you this topic is such a touchy topic to me,
It
so
is
I
a touchy topic. I mean, even when you think about it, right? If you have,
hold
I
on.
find if you had a company pop up tomorrow and they said, we're not going to pay for hormone treatments, for, let's say, transgender people or whatever, right? They would be deemed as unacceptable. You get protests, they'd be shut down, they'd be canceled, everything. We still can't get jobs to pay for birth control. Like that's still a you thing, right? Somehow we're still paying taxes on tampons and sanitary napkins like they're optional, like they're luxury items, as opposed to, in effect, almost a medical necessity. You know what I mean? Those are things that we're still talking about, right? What it costs to birth a child is inabsorbent. Like, I mean, just to have a baby, right? And especially in a society where it becomes more and more common that women are having children on their own, unmarried, or raising kids by themselves. How are these babies supposed to get here? And why would it cost me the same as a car to birth a child? You know what I mean? That is ultimately my responsibility, medically, legally, everything else, to pay as a woman, right? So we're so far behind the curve. It's impossible. Like, I don't know
No,
how we'll catch up, when we'll catch up, if we'll catch up.
it's funny you said that, and we definitely can head to the wrapping up part. But with that being said, we are very, very far behind the curve when it comes to different things. And a lot of times we are the ones to suffer and get penalized. We do have a very high abortion rate, and in different laws that in different states that we're living in, we will be penalized if you decide to, have that abortion or whatever the case may be. And they're making it,
You have a kid too.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
I think as a woman, we have to learn how to heal. Once we learn how to heal ourselves, then we'll be able to learn how to express that loving and that energy to our children, to our man, and then also being able to attract individuals who are like us, who are loving us, and then we can kind of build from there,
mhm,
because at the end of the day, if you don't love yourself as a woman, if you feel that, you have low self-esteem, or maybe you have all types of issues and different things happening, how can you love those kids? How do you don't even give a fuck what they doing anyway? They went to bed at 2 a.m. eating Captain Crunch. You don't care. You would sleep somewhere crying or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know. Why would you even choose a good suitor, right? Because a lot of times I put the way I don't always blame. I don't blame my men all the time. I put a lot of blame on the women, because if you're not getting raped, we are opening our legs. It takes two
mm,
to make a baby, not just one, right?
right.
So at the end of the day, we'll be able, if we were able to heal ourselves collectively, we'd be able to choose a better suitor, so that when we had these kids, it would be a better type of situation, right? We'd be able to make better choices in what we do, because we loved ourselves. Because if you love yourself, everything that you're doing is like, woohoo, you know what I'm saying? And you're making these great decisions. And then that way, the men would get their shit together, because guess what? If he's trying to holler at
Mhm.
you, and he see that you got all your shit together, he gonna be like, oh, wait a
You
second,
gotta
I'm gonna have
come
to speak
correct,
up.
right,
I'm gonna have to come
right.
correct. Like, if a dude's trying to say something to me, like, oh, no, 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 no. You know what I'm saying? He already know there's a certain level. I'm not gonna come up to you like, oh, hey, boo. And no, we're not gonna do none of that honey boo boo and hi. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's all about self-love. You know what I'm saying? If we're able as women to just love ourselves and to
Hmm.
heal from our traumas. We have so much trauma coming back from way back when. You know what I mean? I'm not
Hmm.
talking about our ancestors. I'm talking about in your household, and the way that we talked about colorism.
Hmm.
All the different types of things. So I mean, it really starts with ourselves. Let's go to these comments before we go with our last words and different things.
So.
Humble lion. Wait, hey, humble lion.
Humble lion. Oh wait, but you didn't get to his next comment yet. Wait for it.
Oh, no, I didn't. He said he basically preservation of womanhood.
Hmm.
Mm. And I say black womanhood.
Right.
You know what? I gotta say this. If we are able to identify that, that is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with identifying black womanhood, because at the end of the day, everybody else identifies what they want to identify with. Why can't I be like, hey, what's the problem?
Hmm.
So Cass says there are charities helping women because they cannot afford hygiene products. They are.
Before you go to the next comment here, because that's a whole different thing. But before you go there, right? And so
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go back to the preservation of womanhood and, dare I say, black womanhood comment. I love that. I also feel very, very strongly that everybody calls themselves a woman because they hit a certain age range or, whatever that is. First of all, at the core of it, and y'all seen the shirt, right? It says femininity is my superpower. If you're a woman, understand that there's a femininity, a feminine aspect of that, and femininity is an art. You're not a woman because your voice happens to be lighter, or you know what I mean, or because you happen to get your nails done, or first of all, learn how to walk. Learn how to stand. Learn how to sit. I'm talking, and I'm sorry, y'all. I know I sound like I'm from the 60s right now, but when I tell you be a woman in everything that you do, every minute of the day. You should look like one, smell like one, act like one, talk like one, and then you can demand respect like one. So that's my 2 cents about preservation of womanhood and the art of being a woman, because you don't just wake up one day, oh, I'm 21 and I'm grown, or I'm 41 and I've been a woman a long time. If you don't know how to be a woman, you're not a woman. You have to be a female, which is a type of
definition. My definition of being a woman would be you are taking care of your shit, whatever that is, right? I don't know. I don't know what that shit is. And if you are going through struggles, you may seek some professional help. If there's nothing wrong with that, that's fine. That's fine. But you are doing it. You are doing it well. You have your shit together, right? Once again, things can get hard. It can get overwhelming. That's why there's counselors there. That's why we people have journals. We're not talking about all that. I'm talking about you don't need nothing from nobody. You are graceful. You have poise. You are desired and you love to be desired. When I'm telling you, these are the things that make up a beautiful woman. But that's just
the same can be said for a man now. Don't get me wrong, women. I'm not coming for us, right? I just feel like we should be women, but I feel like a man should be a man too. From the minute he wakes up in the morning, there is no reason that you should have to tell a grown man to go get a haircut, or to shine his shoes, or to put a damn belt on. We've been having this conversation for too long. That is, and I'm talking about on a superficial level, but you can't get to the deep if you can't take care of the superficial. So let's get it right. And I know
you know what? And at the end of the
woman right now, but
and at the end of the day, it's about having standards, right? And caring about what you look like. It's so funny. Right. And I know we have to go to the comments and wrap it up. But even Monique was talking about that. The women wearing the hair bonnets and wearing PJs at the airport. I get it. When you travel, right, you want to be comfortable. Who wants to be, you know what I'm saying, in a suit and tie? But there's a time and place for all that, right? And you get the energy that you put out. If you're putting out laziness, if you're putting out like whatever, then guess what? You're gonna get whatever back. A man doesn't want to wake up in the morning next to the other man. Like, you know what I'm saying? If he wanted a woman, he would get a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, act like a woman. But that's a whole nother thing. But whatever.
Okay.
So yeah.
We
okay. Yeah. Oh, here's a big comment. Whoa.
Yikes.
When it comes to abortion, women need to stop using rape as the go-to to justify legal murder. Everybody ain't getting raped. It's that casual sex out here. Strap it up, damn it. Woo. I'm gonna let your face. I'm gonna pick it up here real quick.
Here we go, right?
So, wait, because it's two exclamation marks next to it.
There are two exclamation marks next to it. So here we go. You know what? For just half of that sentence, I'm going to side the humble lion. Every time the issue of abortion comes up, we start talking about exceptions for rape and incest. What I need are no exceptions for decisions I make on my body. Now, for me personally, I'm pro-choice, and because I've been pregnant 2 times and I've had 2 daughters. So like those are the choices that I have made for me and my body. What I will not do is make decisions for anybody else. And I don't think that you need to justify it one way or another, because when dude drops his load off and keeps it moving, it's up to me what happens with that. So I don't need to justify it as anything, whether you see it as legally this or that or the next, because every month that I ovulate and that ovulation does not come to fruition, that is not murder, legal or otherwise. That's a personal problem that has nothing to do with any man or anybody else for that matter out there. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's the abortion issue. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm trying to reel myself back in, but we should stop talking about abortion and rape and incest and everything else. Abortion is my choice, period. So done. I'm sorry, Kia.
Well, no. Oh, no. I the very emotional topics. I can say in regards to the comment. So if a man ejaculates in a lady and 1 out of 100 million sperm decides to impregnate the lady and she's pregnant now, he has a right, I think, to have a to say, like, hey, what we doing with this baby? Imagine the man wants a kid, and then imagine the woman's like, you know what, I'm working and I don't want to be bothered with kids. I didn't know this was gonna happen. I messed up on my, I don't know, my birth control pill, and I messed up. I do think he has a right to voice his opinion. At the end of the day, she's going to be carrying that baby for 9 months. She's also taking a very high risk of even dying on that table of when she does have that baby. So I think the final decision does lie with her.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of rape is basically the guy or woman, because women can rape somebody too, right? They force themselves on another individual after the individual has told them to stop, right? I said stop. I said no. And that's plain and simple. If you didn't understand, you didn't read the tea leaves, oh well. I personally feel you could be literally inside of the person. That person say stop. You need to stop. I ain't talking about stop like, oh, all breathy, like stop. No, not that type of stop. I'm talking about full blown, get the fuck off of me.
Right. Yeah.
I think there's a big difference. I'm gonna leave the subject alone because a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, I do feel that if a woman does have an abortion, I think the conversation is just to have for two people. Because, imagine, for whatever reason he does want to keep the baby and he's like, can we please talk about it? There are some women who don't say nothing, they just run out and then go get one. She didn't get pregnant by herself. So I do think that they should at least have a conversation about it.
Most people having abortions, and there was a statistic I read on it years ago, so I'm not going to try to throw a number out there. But most people having abortions are not having abortions in happy marriages. Right? It's generally speaking either single women, especially women in abusive situations. There are the cases of rape and incest. That's not the norm, but it is a thing, right? But a woman looking for an abortion is not going into it because she's having fun, casual sex and just wants to do away with it. There's always going to be your one-offs, and that does happen. People are making very, very serious decisions for very serious reasons, and none of us should get involved in that decision-making process.
It goes down to the individual. I mean, for myself, I don't per se believe in abortion. I know, of course, when people do get raped and there's incest and those things, of course, I believe you should just, I met somebody who says, I always get an abortion. I'm like, why don't you just keep your legs closed? Wouldn't that have been so much easier? Or use protection? Like 5 abortions? God damn. Like,
but even going back to what you were saying,
her.
Like if he wants to have the baby, I guess, but the baby has to live in your body. You have to birth it. When you're in the hospital, going back to the conversation we just had, right? When you're in the hospital, you are the patient. Those bills are coming in your name. And I'm talking about that's day one. That's hour one. That child was just born. That cost you $10,000. The bill does not have hubby's name on it. It doesn't have your boyfriend's name on it. It don't have the next dude's name on it. It's not free. Like that's just like it's 100% my responsibility. So let me be 100% responsible.
We gotta have a conversation about that humble line about abortion. That's gonna be a
whole different show, actually. But let's go to the next comment because they're coming. They're coming.
Then somebody gave some emoji faces like, humble lion comes back. No woman should have to ever pay for monthly hygiene products. I totally agree with you. I hate it when I see women get locked up and go to jail because they stole, tampons and they stole, sanitary napkins. That's very true. Oh. So it says, I agree the menstrual products should be covered as medical necessities. They try to act like they are optional beauty and hygiene products.
And they're expensive.
Boom, bam, Liz. Then there's another. Boom, bam, Kia, snapping fingers. Agreed. Then we have Mrs. Smith say, submission should be earned, not automatically given. Well, I'll say this. I'll say it like this. Whatever, let's just say you was in a conversation or you was feeling some kind of way. Would you talk to your manager that way?
Well, I can
How
be
I
wrong,
feel.
Patricia.
Like the
If
way you
you're
kind
still in there, can you please come back around to that, right? Because we were talking, I think that's coming back to, we are talking about submitting to your husband. First of all, if he's your husband, that should have already been earned. Don't just marry anybody. You know what I mean?
if you're still in the
So,
if you're
yeah.
still in the chat, go in a little bit
Let
into
us know
more
what the
detail.
submission is about there.
Yeah.
So I think we were talking about submitting to your husband, but okay.
We are not the creators of life, the Most High is, so we have no right to take it. Men carry the seed, the women are simply the vessel of which life comes through. So here's the controversy with that. Not everybody believes in that, right? Not everybody believes in the intricate details of that. So you can have people say, yeah, I believe in God, but I also believe in the right to do what you got to do, and whatever decision that I make, I'll deal with that when I pass away. You have no right to tell me what to do, whatever, whatever. You know, because at the end of the day, with that being said, there's a lot of things that we do to our bodies, right? That we can say, well, our body's the temple of the living God and he wouldn't want us to do it. Well, it's my choice, my decision. Whatever, if we're going to go there religiously wise, whatever I decide to make, when I talk to my maker, at the end of the day, you're not going to be standing in line with me. That's my decision. So you need to go on your line.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the
You go
kicker,
in your
right?
line.
I do understand, religiously speaking, there's a lot of people who believe in God and say, hey, it's not your right, whatever, whatever. Okay, so we get to kill, animals and do different things or whatever, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the leather that you're wearing, did God want him, for you to kill the animal so you could wear your shoes or what? You know what I'm saying? We could get so wrapped into that. That's
And if
why it's
I'm
such a
not
touchy
mistaken,
subject.
Humble Lion's been in the comments since jump, and we do appreciate you, and I do appreciate
Yeah,
the discourse. Make no mistake.
Humble
But if
Lion
I'm not
knows that.
mistaken, Humble Lion, and you chime back in if I'm off here, you're also a proponent of the Second Amendment and carrying a gun. So the same way that you can decide that somebody has offended you enough to take their life, where is the whole sanctity of life then? And the whole, this is a creator. So what if he came into my house and broke in and stole something? I won't take his life, because most people that are gun toting, this, that, and the third, right? Your Second Amendment people are also your anti-abortion people. So that's
I
just a
mean, and also
confusion
we're
in and
going,
of itself for
but
me.
also we're going there. We're and in that statement in reference to the religion aspect of it. What happens? You're not religious, right? Because not everybody believes in God or that type of. Because everybody, even if you do believe in God, it may not be in your image, right? It may be in somebody else. You may be Christian. I may be Hindu. I may be this. I may be that. So we're going to literally discredit
You're
all these
imposing your
other
faith on
people just
everybody
because
else.
like, hey, my faith said you don't do this. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that's so interesting, because I actually met Christians. I met some Christians basically who will say you'll be damned, you'll go to hell if you wear pants, right? It's an abomination, this and this and this, whatever, whatever. At the end of the day, people do what they want to do. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother topic, but
It is. And Cash came back in.
yeah, what's Cash saying? He says there was a study that came out where 75% of women responding cited financial concerns as the reason why for abortion.
And
That
that
is
kind of goes back to where we started with the woman's role, right? We are so far behind in the rat race. We don't get paid the same. We don't get the same access to jobs. We barely just got voting rights and kind of everything else. Go ahead with that comment.
Humble Lion says we are talking about people who believe they can find life on other planets, but not in the womb.
We could have a whole show dedicated to just that issue. But for
He says
tonight,
it's the difference between killing and murder. You can kill somebody in self-defense. At the end of the day, once again, you did make a statement, and I'm going to pull that statement back up and reread it if I may, and that could be the last comment. We are not the creators of life, the Most High is. So right there, once again, you're saying, hey, my religion says this. So since my
trumps
religion
your
says this,
anything.
then guess
Right.
what? All the billions of people or whatever, society that you live in, follow what I say because my Most High says this. Once again, not discrediting the Most High, because a lot of people are religious, but I
Mm-hmm.
promise you, if I sin, and then we're going to talk about just that. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
sinning, Humble Line, I promise you I'm not going to be standing in the line as you. You're going to be in your own line and walk into the
Accountable for
pearly
your
gates, and
own
then we're like,
sins.
hey, Humble Lion, now it says here you did this on a Friday and do. And you're gonna have to answer to those questions, right? And then for a Kia, it's gonna say you did this and da 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 da. So
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about me and what I got going on right now. You know what I'm saying? That's how I personally feel.
I mean, but at the end of the day, that same belief system is literally why women are in the place that we're in, because it's really truly this idea that I know better than you, or I know what the creator intended, and therefore I'll vote, you can't. Therefore, I'll work, I'll make more money, you won't. That, you know, it's those, it's that decision making, and it really does. It kind of, a lot of it stems from religion. You know what I mean? And it's interesting coming from me, because I think on the panel I'm like the one that actually probably the deepest of the, you know, the most practicing believer, I suppose, right? But at the end of the day, it really comes down to men feeling that they know better, and that they know the creator's intentions for women's minds, bodies, you know, and controlling
Well,
what we do, what we say.
and
And
just
it puts us
so
in a
he says,
like in a sub type spot.
so he ends up saying it's not religion. I'm not religious, but I mean, excuse me, the powers that be made it religion. But with that being said, whatever I choose to do, let's just say right now, I hang up the computer. Hey, everybody, have a good day. That is my choice, my body, my right, my time, my everything. If I want to go ahead, get high, get drunk, smoke, whatever I'm doing, that's me. So that decision is going to lie with me regardless. You're not going to, I don't understand logically why anyone, and we're just saying men in general, why anyone would say, hey, this is how you should be done. Because if we're talking about the most high is the one, this, you have nothing, like my relationship with God or the most high has nothing to do with Liz. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the confusion. That's the confusion that I'm
There's
not.
atheist people. There's you know, there's women in faiths that they could be murdered for making some of these decisions. They are hard decisions to make. I
Yeah.
mean, and so just imposing that on anybody. I mean, and again, though, that comes to, this is all women's issues. I literally, I think that they're all stemming from the same place, right? So as a man, I know what's best. I know what's better. And as a woman, just play your part. So it's so interesting, because the entire theme of tonight's show was a woman's role. And we went kind of around and around and around. I think we touched on every single thing that we could touch on when it comes to a woman's role, and just how much of a fight we have to put up with for control over our own homes, over our finances, over our bodies, over everything else that men don't have to deal with. They
Yeah.
just
You
don't.
know what's so interesting? And I'm going to say, read these last comments, last words of Liz, and that's it. But I'm going to say that there was a study done, and I wish I had those studies with me. But they said that the average woman wishes that she can walk outside just to take a walk, 3 in the morning when she can't sleep at night, just to get some fresh air, but she can't because she's afraid she might get raped, or she might get,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Compared to, let's just say you're like, you know what? And I'm not talking about you have to live in a bad neighborhood. Live in a decent neighborhood, you can't sleep, you just want to take a stroll. You may get mugged. Don't get me right. Anybody walking outside 3 in the morning may get mugged. But guess what? That
Right.
person ain't thinking about raping your ass. The guy walking next to you ain't gonna be like, man, humble line, you looking good today. You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
If something were to happen to a man in the middle of the night, it would be a tragedy. If something happens to a woman in the middle of the night, well, what was she doing out that late at night?
yeah, that's, oh man, we got a long way to
There's some
go.
differences, right? I mean, as tale as old as time. If a man sleeps with 5 to 50 women, he the man. If a woman sleeps with 5 to 50 women, 5 to 50 men, yo,
She a
put
hoe.
her in the garbage. Yeah, you got no use for her, you
This
know.
last,
So,
and then with the last words of Liz. So Spec says, if you feel that abortion is against the Bible, then read this. Then he puts up Numbers 5:11 through 28. I,
mhm.
my friend, cannot talk about what that says because I do not know what that is. I do know those are scriptures within the Bible, but I can't say you like, oh, it says so and so.
Right.
So and
So
so.
we're
But
not gonna look that up right
yes,
now.
but for
But
people who do read the Bible, this is what he's saying to look at because there's some messages in there that we may want to know. With
mhm.
that being said, if we could go ahead and do last words with Liz.
So love the conversation tonight. Thank you guys for showing up. Really, really appreciate the comments. Appreciate, I got a couple side text messages coming in and everything else. And some people couldn't comment in the comment section. I was trying to bring it to the air as quickly as I could, right? But as always, guys, so Grown Honest Concepts is the website. The t-shirts there, along with a whole bunch of other ones. I know I had a request. I did not forget about it. So I'll come back around to that one later. In regards to tonight's topic, again, I opened it up saying that Women's History Month is huge. It's personal. I know that in just my personal life, I've been told, or whatever the case is, that you have a pretty smile. No one's going to take you seriously. and that's something I know a man would never hear. I know that I have gone up for promotions, and was told kind of in a roundabout on the back end that, well, the concern was that you had kids you needed to get home to, which means I wouldn't be as available as a man would be for that same position, right? So I could do the job, but when it comes to actually getting the promotion, well, that man is not racing home to be with his kids, that woman is, right? So those are different biases, and discriminations and different things that we really are dealing with today, right? I know that a lot of women are working the exact same job as a man and making less than they are for the exact same job, the same hours at the same company. There is something very, very wrong with that. And there's a reason that we are not allowed to talk about pay at work. And that's one of the biggest reasons, because if they started looking at the disparities in pay between men and women and between the races and between everything else, like things would have to equalize really fast. You know what I mean? We talked about still paying taxes on hygiene products, or even the cost of hygiene products. What's expected of a woman, and the more we take on, the more is expected of us, right? So I think it's an important issue. I think it's one that we should talk about more often. I know we barely touched on what it actually means to be a woman. I know Kia brought up who's a woman anymore, anyways. Like, you know what I mean? You just get to voluntarily be a woman, and is that what the new norm to what extent, right? And we always talk about women and their role and their job and how they're doing and how we should be doing it. We usually don't talk a whole lot about men. So, we should revisit the issue and what's a man's role. I'd be kind of curious as to what the audience has to say about that too.
Alpha man versus the beta man.
Right. So, to be continued for sure. We'll be here next Sunday night. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I know they're still going at it in the comment section, but we can't be here all night. So
Yes, with that being said, just to let you guys know, if you're not able to look at the comments or whatever, because I know it's comments coming in from YouTube. I know that Humble Lion is mentioning Genesis 9:6 for Specs. And then Specs is saying the Bible does condone abortions. And then he's going back and saying Specs that was only for priests. And here we got here Specs that scripture is only about infidelity. And then Humble Lion ends with he knows the name of every person, born or unborn, and he has seen their whole life from before time. Psalms 139:16. I'll say this, even though I cannot quote a scripture. And once again, when we all perish, not saying that any religion is right, but if we're talking about Christianity, when we are in that line, the pearly gates, you will not be standing in my line. So if I want to go fuck off somewhere and do this, that, and the third, do not judge me. Do not tell me what the fuck I got to do, because at the end of the day, it's my body, my thing. And if he sees, if we're talking about God, right? If he sees what I'm doing, guess what? That's me and him. We're going to have that conversation. We're going to be like, hey, I'm going to be like, hey. And then we're going to be going back and forth. And we're like, man.
Yeah. At the end of the day, one sin is not greater than the other.
And guess what? And like you said, it's sin, but guess what? That's on me. My life, my decision has nothing to do with Humble Lion, has nothing to do with Specs. It has nothing to do with even to do with your family. When Humble Lion is standing in that pearly gates, you're not gonna be standing there with your kids neither. You're gonna be standing there by yourself being judged. And that's if we're talking about Christianity. 9 to 5, the movie is still irrelevant. Shaking my head. Lord Jesus, this was a great conversation. We can go on. Have a good night. I love you guys, and I love the conversations. Thank you guys. Bye.